During these next two segments, I want to talk to you about buffer overflows a little bit more in depth. I want to tell you about how they work, and I want to show you an example of a simplistic buffer overflow attack. Now, buffer overflows are basically common attacks that are designed to overwrite a memory buffer and cause damage to an application. These overflows can cause system crashes, it can allow the attacker to execute any arbitrary commands or code that they want, or it can even return a command shell in some cases. Now, this buffer overflow code can be written in a wide variety of languages, so you have to have a little bit of programming skills. Not a lot, but at least enough. Now, C and C++ seem to be very popular languages to write buffer overflows in, and that's what I'm going to show you. Now, let me explain a little bit about how buffer overflows work. Now, this is very generic, and some buffer overflows work a little bit differently. But in general, in a buffer overflow attack, what happens is in the application, a buffer parameter is set. It could be an input parameter, for example, and allow only so many characters to be in the buffer. Now, data is written to this buffer that may exceed that set parameter in size. In other words, if the buffer is for 15 characters and the input is 20 characters from a string, that string is transferred to that buffer and it's too big to fit in there, so it overflows it. The buffer overflows. Data can be written to adjacent memory addresses or adjacent buffers or locations in memory. Any existing data that happens to be in those addresses is overwritten or corrupted. Now, in most cases, the application may not handle the error very well and may not know what to do with this condition. So a wide variety of things could happen. It could freeze up, it could crash, it could execute any commands that are added to the overflow input string. It could also return a command prompt. So it really depends upon what it will do, and hackers will typically write buffer overflows based upon documented exploits and vulnerabilities in an application, so they know exactly what it will do and they know how to write it to get it to do exactly what they want it to do. Now, I'm going to do a demonstration here in a moment of a piece of code, and this is actually the piece of code I'm going to do. And this is a very simple program, buffer_test.c, and this is a screenshot of the code in gedit. And I'll bring this up in the next session and show you how it works. But basically, just to go through it real quick, it sets a buffer length of 15 characters. And this is a very simple program. It doesn't really do much of anything except show some things on the screen. It prints enter the password. And the password is I love VTC. It's embedded in this code here. Now, if the wrong password is entered, then it jumps and says wrong password. If the correct password is entered, after it does the string compare to the buffer right there, if the correct password is entered, then it allows you to proceed, and it says, it prints the screen, you now have full root level access. Now, obviously, this is just a dummy program. We're going to be logged in as root on the Linux box anyway, so it really doesn't matter. But this is just to kind of to demonstrate how this buffer overflow concept works. So I'm going to go ahead and run this program in a moment on the CentOS box. And what we'll have to do first is compile it and then run it. So that's what we're going to do in this next session. Let's go ahead and take a look at that.